Hi, this is Nick Manolis, and welcome to the second edition of the Frontline Management Microburst Series brought to you by the NHTI Business Training Center. It's good to have you back. Today, what we want to do is focus on the power of employee recognition. We want to take a look at three specific areas. We want to take a look at the underpinnings of employee recognition. Why is it so important? Number two, we want to talk about three keys to making it valuable. And not only valuable, but how do you do it? And number three, we want to take a look at the opportunity that you have to recognize employees. There is one universal opportunity that every one of you watching today has to recognize employees. I think I'd like to close with a challenge to you. So that's where we're going to go in the course of the next few minutes. First of all, one of the things that struck me when we started talking about delivering this program on the power of employee recognition is how much we're recognizing employees right now. There's been a resurgence in recognizing employees. Think about this. How often have you seen a TV commercial? Have you read an article? Have you gone down the street and seen a sign that says, "Thank you, healthcare workers. Thank you, first responders"? And when I see this and I start to think about it, it seems to me that there's this resurgence in the importance of thanking people for what they do. So with that as a backdrop, let's talk about how you can bring this resurgence into your work world. Let's talk about the underlying principles of employee recognition. Underlying principle number one, all employees like to be valued. That's just a no-brainer. Just think about this. Do you like to be valued for what you do? And the answer is, of course you do. Your value, your self-worth takes an uptick if you know that the person whom you're working for or working with values you as well. And that value is shown to you through the recognition of your efforts. So underlying principle number one, all employees like to be valued. Underlying principle number two, employee recognition is a critical component of a positive workplace culture. If I was to define workplace culture as character, attitude, and personality of an organization, and if I was to ask you, do you work in a positive workplace culture? And if you were to tell me, yes, you think you do, you really believe that the culture of your workplace is positive, then I would suggest to you that employee recognition is alive and well in your organization. Why? Because your organization shows that it values its employees by recognizing the employee efforts. It's tied right into a positive workplace culture. Underlying principle number three, employee recognition is a great form of motivation. For an assignment that I did recently, I took a look at 6 years worth of employee attitude surveys, specifically what the motivators were for employees. And across all the surveys I looked at, feeling valued and being recognized were always in the top third of the responses. Maybe not number one, but clearly in the top third. So let's revisit these underlying principles, if only to answer your question of why is employee recognition so powerful? Underlying principle number one, all employees like to be valued. Underlying principle number two, employee recognition is an important part of a positive workplace culture. And underlying principle number three, employee recognition is part of a positive workplace culture. So let's talk about the three keys in delivering recognition. Number one, you have to be visible. Now, we talked about this in our first episode in the Microburst series. How on earth can you recognize the value that an employee brings unless you know what she or he is doing? Cut to the chase on this, guys. There's no way you can recognize the value of an employee and what he or she brings you if you're invisible. So the key to making it work, it being recognizing employees, is number one, be visible. Number two, be timely. I always would tell managers and supervisors, give the recognition as immediately as you can. Example, if I ask you to submit a report to me by the end of business today, and you do, and I read it before I go home, or before I call it a day, because now we're all at home, and I say, you know what, that's a darn good job, then it's my responsibility to get to you almost immediately, and I can do it in no time. I can text you, I can email you, I can call you, I can do any number of things and simply say, that was a knockout report, thanks, I appreciate your efforts. Timeliness. And thirdly, recognition has to be heartfelt. Don't go around giving out atta-girls and atta-boys if you don't mean them. Because if that's your mode of operation, and if you recognize through jive and not through merit, you hurt yourself. You clearly hurt yourself. So don't pass on recognition if it's not heartfelt. Now, let's just talk about how you can recognize employees. Some of you come from workplaces where you can make a cash recognition. You can give a bonus, right? I mean, some of you have that ability to do that. Some of you come from organizations where you can do a spot bonus. What would that be? That might be a day off. That might be a change in work schedule. That might be a plum assignment. That might be a gift card to somewhere. But not all of you come from that. Not all of you come from an organization that allows you to cash bonus somebody, but all of you have the ability to make a personal recognition to an employee. You don't need funding to do that. You don't need the approval of anybody higher up in the organization. You can simply do it on your own. It costs nothing to do and means everything to the employee. Here's my challenge. Before the end of your workday today, find someone who needs to hear from you with regard to what they're bringing you in the workplace. Show the employee that you value them and recognize them for their efforts. It's easy to do, and I wish you all the best. Until we meet again, good health to all of you. Thanks for watching.